It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Hiver beers, and this is a can of their blonde beer coming in at 4.5% ABV. Now Hiver beers are generally honey based beers, hence the Hiver bit. I picked this one up in Sainsbury's. It was under £2 a can, 330ml can. Without further ado, let's get this beer out into a glass and see what we get. A little bit of smoke. Oh, and a little bit of bubbly stuff coming out the top of the can. A little bit of foam. So we have a 1 to 2 finger white head, good levels of slow moving carbonation. It's a clear beer, just got it out the fridge about 15-20 minutes ago. Just let it warm up slightly. You're going to get more flavours if you let the beer warm up slightly from the fridge. I try to store all of my beer in the fridge, keep everything fresh, all of the ingredients fresh. But then when I come to drink it, I like to get it out about 20-25 minutes beforehand, just to bring the beer up slightly to get more flavour from the beer. But it leaves a little bit of condensation on the glass when you do that. So a clear, light, honey, amber looking ale. Let's get the aroma. Smells really good. I think first and foremost what I got to say about this beer is that you have to like honey first. If you're not a fan of honey, it took me a while to like honey. I'm not gonna mess about. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like honey as a child. Didn't like honey as a teenager. Didn't like honey in my 20s. But it was beer, believe it or not, that really opened my eyes to honey in my 30s. Honey beers, like I was kind of like, ooh, what's this aroma that I find familiar? And to begin with, like, oof, I don't quite like that. But you learn to love honey if you don't like honey. And now I love the stuff. So loads of honey. As a blonde ale, it's slightly dry as well on the aroma. A little bit of sweet malt coming through. A little zestiness from the hops. Maybe a touch of stinging nettle flavours coming through on the aroma. But anyway, let's dive into this one. Cheers, everybody. I mean, real, like, organic. Like, it's quite a strong tasting honey beer. I went to a fantastic event with Hannah. I call her Hiver Hannah. She's stored in my phone as Hiver Hannah. Lovely lady. But I went to an event organised by Hiver Beers in a fantastic hotel in London. I think some of you might have remembered it. A couple of years ago now, to believe it or not. Before this situation kicked off around the world, where we could travel. We can travel freely now, but it's been 2 years of not being able to do too much. But one of my last events before the whole thing kicked off was this hotel trip in London. It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I've never been in such a grand hotel in all my life. And we basically took over the bar with Hiver and Hiver beers, and they launched a lager. And the lager was really, really good. A really good, crisp, clean lager. But this is equally as good. This is equally as good. A little bit of carbonation pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. A light, crisp, malty flavour that comes through. I'm trying to focus on other flavours apart from the honey, because the honey is a big aspect of this beer. Blonde is a really good word. I'm not going to go as far as saying Belgian blonde, although it does have slight, on the back end, kind of a nice slight kind of Belgian yeasty flavour coming through. You know, you wouldn't compare this to a Leffe blonde or some of the beautiful Fillion blonde. You wouldn't kind of necessarily put it up against those type of beers. It's its own beer in its own right. I think it's more of a base beer that's had a load of honey put into it. And I think if you shop in Sainsbury's, where you can pick this up, you can probably pick it up on the Hiver website as well. But if you were to shop in Sainsbury's and pick this beer up, then I think the honey aspect would be enough to draw you back to buy the beer again. And they were a little bit late to the game, Sainsbury's, with this whole craft beer movement, the canned craft beer movement. Probably the last supermarket to really get involved. But as I've mentioned before, they're like car makers, supermarkets. They're like dinosaurs. They barely move at all. But then when they decide to move, i.e. Tesla, forced all of these car companies to move. Now they're all making electric cars. It's a little bit like that in the supermarket. They were quite happy pumping their bottles out because they had good sales with the bottles. All of a sudden then, a couple of the supermarkets, Tesco, just to name one, started to put in loads of 440ml cans of beer, and then you had the likes of Asda following and Morrison's following. And then of course, the discounts were going for it. Aldi and Lidl were going for it. And Sainsbury's for a while just did nothing. They just kind of, I think they just stood on the sidelines and were just kind of watching to see if this was going to work, if this was going to pan out. And then all of a sudden the lines started getting bigger and bigger. The shelf space started getting bigger and bigger in the likes of Asda's and Tesco's and Morrison's, that they realise actually we have to do something here. So they've launched a range of craft beer. It's probably been in the stores now about 4 months, 5 months. But this is, to get back to this beer, this is a good Sainsbury's shopper style beer. It's a higher class kind of good quality beer that your Sainsbury's shopper won't mind paying for. Certainly if they like honey. Come and visit the Hiver Beer and Beer experience and get hands on with beekeeping. Right. Now we're talking about the fresh and natural blonde beer brewed with a touch of honey. It's the crisp, refreshing taste of Hiver and our sustainable approach to brewing great beer that makes it feel like summer all year long. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. The ingredients are water, wheat, barley, maize, honey, yeast, hops, and of course yeast. Gonna rate it. I like it. I like it. It's a little bit dominant on the honey side. But they're honey beers. They're a honey-based brewery. You're going to get that. I like it. I like it enough to give it an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.